Hello, hello. Welcome back. It's Friday, and that means just one thing. We are here for our latest session of Burnout Proof Leadership. So, welcome back. If you are a returner, I would love to know how have you been getting on with some of the tools I talked about last week in our Burnout Proof series. If you've been around here for a while, have you been doing some of the stuff we talked about in our confidence series, our Think and Speak Like an Executive series? I'd love to know what you've been trying, what's been working, what's not been working. And as always, if you've got any questions as we go along today, please drop them in the chat. In fact, I really want to answer some questions today. I know there's quite a lot of you who just lurk. But my goal here is to help move things forward. And honestly, the best way to do that is to tailor the support to what you need. So if you've made the effort to turn up here live, take advantage of me. Last week, I think we had over 100 people finally view it, and I didn't get one question. So tell me what's going on, ladies. But welcome back to our Burnout Proof Leadership series. This is number 2 of 3. So next Friday will be our last session on burnout. But I have a very interesting next series to tell you about that I'll be telling you about later on. Or maybe I'll tell you next Friday. I don't know. I haven't decided fully yet. But burnout proof leadership. That's what we're talking about again today. If you can, just give me a thumbs up in the chat so I know you can hear me. There has been one time where I just talked to myself for half an hour. So let me know you can hear me. I also had a situation a couple of weeks ago where my streaming software didn't link up with LinkedIn, so people didn't get notified. And you watched it on the replay, and I guess that's fine. But I'd love it if somebody's live, just give me a thumbs up. It just really reassures me that the technology is working. But today we're going to talk about how we can build a burnout-proof career. Because last time we talked about why burnout is happening, and in particular, why it's happening at the top. A lot of people think, oh, if you're an executive, burnout is something you dealt with earlier on in your career, that boundaries are a weakness rather than a leadership skill, and therefore it doesn't apply. And they look at the executives and think, well, they've made it, and therefore they don't experience burnout. And I think, therefore, when we do experience burnout as an executive, it's incredibly lonely and often hard to self-diagnose. You don't realize that's what's going on. So last week we were talking about that. This week, I want to talk about how to build a career and rather let go of some of the mistakes we make in our career that actually set us up for burnout in the first place. The interesting thing, these go hand in hand with the mistakes that mean you're also not the influential leader you want to be. So to me, this is a no-brainer topic for us to dive into, because I'm here on a mission to help women become stronger leaders, better leaders, more influential leaders, have that voice at the table that they've been craving so we can change the world for the good. But actually, all that stuff also helps us step away from burnout. The stuff that makes you a great influential leader makes you step away from burnout. But we don't see it that way. So we're going to talk today about the outdated models that cause us to break and how to avoid them. We're going to talk about some daily habits again, weekly habits, in the moment habits to help us change these behaviors that are causing the problems in the first place. That, by the way, if you do them, are also going to elevate you and help you be a more influential leader. But most important of all, are actually going to help you with the burnout and how to think long term about your career so you don't burn out before you reach the impact you're here to make. So stick with me. By the end of the day, you're going to see, hopefully, where things are draining you, do some self-diagnosis, but also have some steps to move away from that. That's my goal for today for you. So without further ado, let's talk about, excuse me, the career model that is breaking us. The cold, hard truth of the situation is a lot of the career advice we've been given in our careers, the role models that we look up to because they're very visible, is setting us up for burnout. We've been told directly or indirectly that success means always saying yes. I was actually told that early in my career. My boss said to me, you can't afford to say no at this point in your career, Toni. And I really believe that. And now as a coach, I'm appalled, completely appalled by that, because that caused me massive issues because I said yes to everything. I'm very excitable, so I also get excited about every opportunity. But I said yes to everything, and that meant I actually under-delivered. It caused my career problems. So always saying yes, that's a surefire way to make sure you end up in burnout. Being available 24/7, which many of you will tell me there is no other option. And proving your value by how much you do, not the impact you make. This is what I call success equals sacrifice as a model. It's the model so many of us in leadership are still running on, particularly as women, even when we've reached senior roles. In fact, I think a lot of us stall in a senior role, even though there's further to go, because we say, I've got nothing else to give. I can't work anymore. And we equate success with giving more and more and more. And that isn't what success means. And sure enough, though, if you give more and more and more, it is going to cause burnout. But okay, those things I've just talked about, saying yes a lot, always being available, like doing more and more, those aren't actually the thing that causes burnout. They correlate with burnout. The scientist in me is like, let's just pause for a second here. Correlation is not cause, right? I really want you to understand burnout is not about working long hours. It's not about saying yes too much. It's not being available 24/7. Those are a problem, but those themselves aren't the cause of burnout. I have coached people who have worked crazy hours. I have at points in my life worked crazy hours and been very happy. I wouldn't advocate for it today. Partly today, it wouldn't make me happy in the same way. I also know most of my success comes from having downtime. Thinking in the shower only happens when my brain isn't full. And thinking in the shower is like my biggest source of ideas. Is amazing. The thing that causes burnout is stress. The problem with saying yes, being available 24/7 and proving your worth through how much you do is not the impact on you or the lack of impact it can make, which is a thing. It is that those things can often, but not always, lead to stress. In particular, this model might get you to the table, but it won't keep you there. That's stressful. This model takes you away from family or causes you to be disengaged during the family events, like you're at the dinner table texting your boss or answering your team's queries or dealing with a fire. That causes stress. You get passed over for yet another promotion because you don't feel that you can give anymore, or you're working more, you're not getting recognized. That causes stress. You tell yourself, if I just say yes more, that causes stress. You see colleagues around you doing better, even though you know you're more competent than them. That causes stress. This behavior all drives overfunctioning, exhaustion, and eventually disengagement. And the worst form of burnout I've ever seen comes from disengagement. I've seen it in quiet quitters. I've worked with women who have chronic burnout because they've decided they don't love their job anymore and know that they need to do something about it. That misalignment, I don't love this anymore, but not knowing how to fix that misalignment, that is the most insidious form of stress there is. The most disconcerting burnout is the type where you've decided you're quitting, but you're doing the job while you're job hunting. So you are working, but you are job hunting. That form of burnout is surprising. I have so many conversations with clients preparing them for this because it's not about the busy preparing for interviews while having a full-time job. It is this stress of emotionally being done, but not being able to tell anybody. Emotionally being done and feeling misaligned enough that you are leaving, which you would think would be freeing, but it isn't. I coach every job hunter to deal with this because it happens every time. I've never seen it not happen. I think if you have decided you're leaving a role that's such that you are job hunting while you're in a role full time, there is misalignment. And as soon as you decide I'm doing something about it, it's permission to be like, yes, so misaligned. And that causes stress because you're not exiting straight away. You're holding it, anticipating the leaving, but you don't know when it's going to be over. And I do feel like everything I'm talking about here is kind of seen as inevitable in the tech industry, especially rewards for firefighting, fast answers, being the one who always saves the day, which trains us to think the busier I am, the more valuable I am. I would actually like to know in the comments, type me a why, if you have at some point in your career thought, if I'm busy, I'm successful. If I'm busy, I'm valuable. If I'm not busy, people don't think I'm valuable. Is that you? Put a why in the comments. I want to know if this is resonating. But all this takes us away from operating in a way that feels aligned and means we don't get rewarded, which means we feel stressed, or means we're seeing the same fire over and over again, week after week or month after month. And here's the catch. None of that is leadership. Saying yes, 24/7 availability, firefighting, being the fastest, it's not leadership, it's survival. And it breaks even the best leaders. So you step away for a minute and think about a business that is always focused on firefighting mode. I have this conversation a lot with executives who are like aware their company is in firefighting mode too much and it's taking away from development, from R&D, from innovation, it's not good for a business. So why would it be good for you? Right? I would really love to hear, if this is you, drop in the comments. Actually tell me, if you slow down, are you worried that you'll fall behind? Or do you think you have to work harder than everyone else? I say think. Do you feel you have to work harder than everyone else? Because I think that's a very legitimate feeling for so many of us as women. We know that women have to outperform their male colleagues on average by quite a margin. I say on average, there's always exceptions. But most of us, if you've got to a leadership position, you have consistently outperformed your male colleagues just from the data of being a woman in tech, right? So here's the truth. If you're building your career on sacrifice, it is going to eventually break you. But the good news is that is not the model you have to operate in. That is not a career model that is actually going to get you anywhere. In fact, you get to choose a different career model. So this is where I want to now talk about, what does it look like to define success on your terms? And as you do it, step away from burnout. So let me know in the comments, how are we getting on here? How's this sounding? Just give me something so I know you're listening. I'm not just talking to the ether. Okay. If the model of success is sacrifice, what's the alternative model? This is why we need to redefine success. Because leadership isn't about how many hours you work or how many fires you put out. Actually, I would argue it's how many fires you don't need to put out because the systems you put in place. But that's a whole other conversation. Success is about creating sustainable impact, the kind of impact you can deliver year after year without burning out. And when you do that, you should feel aligned. And that's the most amazing inoculation against stress and therefore burnout. That one word, alignment. So what does it mean to feel aligned? What does sustainable aligned success look like? It's measuring yourself in outcomes, not hours. Not I worked 12-hour days this week, but I moved the needle on a $2 million account, or I helped my team deliver ahead of schedule. And those things that you're delivering on aren't just outcomes. They are something that fills you up, right? So I'm not a salesperson, so delivering the needle on a $2 million account doesn't do anything for me. But what does light me up is having 5 clients this week who've gone and done something that has changed their influence at work. I mean, when I can have an outcome, like I've had 5 clients, we've had a conversation and they've gone and changed the way they're operating, had a positive impact, and they're writing to me in Slack afterwards, like, hey, this is how, I mean, I don't need anything else. Like a week of 5 of those, oh, I'm in heaven. Having 5 of my clients land jobs in a week, I mean, wow, right? So you've got to find the thing that's aligned for you. It is not how many hours you've worked at all. It is about what you've delivered in terms of outcomes and making sure those align with who you are. These need to be things that move the needle and feel good to you. And the interesting thing is, when you move the needle, the business notices. When you work 12-hour days, presenteeism people notice, but that doesn't actually get you a promotion. Have you ever been in a role where presenteeism was mandatory and you still didn't get promoted? Because you didn't have outcomes. Presenteeism is not the same thing as good at your job. It's also, the second piece of this is having longevity in your career. The leaders who thrive aren't the ones sprinting. They're the ones pacing themselves, running a marathon. They're still strong at mile 26, not just mile 2. Alignment is about a marathon alignment, not just the first 2-mile sprint. I think there are always going to be things in your job that aren't aligned. We should aim for full alignment, but I think it's until we have AI doing all the things we don't want to do. Like, I'm a CEO. There are certain things of being a CEO I just don't love. Like, I'm the one that is responsible for, although I have accountants doing tax returns, it's always the one I bring up is the tax returns. I hate them. I have somebody who does a lot of it for me. I still have to pull together a lot of the information. I still have to go through the report they write and make sure I agree, because it's my name as the director of my business. Like, I'm the one legally liable, and I just, that is never going to feel aligned. But 90% of the work I do is fully aligned. Really, really, really well aligned. It's actually got more aligned as I've gone on as well. And I would say when I was an executive, the times I did my best work was when most of, like, 90% of my week was aligned work. Yeah, 10% of my week wasn't. Having the meetings with the difficult colleague, it's not going to be aligned. But I want you to think about how you can get more alignment more of the time. It's not just alignment on a 2-mile sprint, it's alignment on the 26-mile sprint that is the entire month. Right? Part of that is hiring the right team around you. Again, another conversation for another day. Hire the right team, delegate to team members so that something that is not aligned for you is aligned for them. Best work. That's a whole other conversation, as I said. And then the third thing here to build an aligned, successful career is to define success on your terms. So easy to say, but what does that even mean? Well, maybe that's building a team that you lead and love leading, creating the culture that you love, landing a seat at the executive table, making space for both your career and your personal life, whatever flavor it is for you. You've got to define it rather than letting it happen to you. A lot of our stress comes from not knowing what we actually want and therefore allowing life to happen to us. Make a decision. Get off the fence. There's no wrong decisions, by the way. And my husband and I are currently deciding what is our next car. We only have one car. We both work from home. We just have one car household. What is our next car? And there's pros and cons. And I made the comment yesterday, like, there is no wrong decision here. There is just a decision. Yes, okay, fine. This is now our next car for probably the next 3 years. So it's kind of hard to back out of it, but we could back out if we really cared. But also, more to the point, it's 3 years and then we can change our minds anyway without any cost, just other than, we will be replacing the car in 3 years. It's generally what we do anyway. So I want you to lead like that too. There is no wrong decision. Sitting on the fence is stressful. If you make a decision, get some more data, you can always pivot down the road. But allowing other people to make a decision for you, allowing other people to dictate what's going on, that's not defining your own success. That's absorbing somebody else's definition of your success. So many of my clients come to me having been saying yes to everything, having the autonomy of making decisions. They've given it away. It's not that they've had it taken away. They've given it away. They are saying yes to everything, which takes away that control of defining their own success on their terms. So they come to me often at breaking point. That's often why people reach out for a coach. I really wish more people would reach out to a coach before that happens. The clients who really, really thrive that I work with are the clients that have a coach because they know it's going to make them a better leader, even if they don't need it right now, because you always need a coach, in my opinion. Anyway, my point being, a lot of people come to me at some sort of breaking point because they don't know how to not say yes. One client in particular comes to mind. If she's listening, she might know who I'm talking about. She was notorious for saying yes. In fact, it took us about a month for her to stop saying yes. Late nights, extra projects, fixing problems that weren't hers. She thought it made her indispensable. This was something we spent a lot of time talking through, but it was breaking her. And when we worked together, we had to shift her from measuring her value by time to measuring her value by impact. Because part of why she came to me as well was like, she had shifting goalposts on promotions. I think she'd been promised a CTO title for like 2 years, but every time she had a conversation about it, the goalposts were moving. So she started to say no strategically. She started focusing on outcomes. It wasn't too long. I think it was about 6 months when the CEO did actually give her that promotion after moving the goalpost over and over again, and told her at that point, you've never been more valuable to this business. She stopped saying yes and she became more valuable. You might be listening to this thinking, how the hell does that happen? It happens over and over again. I've seen this all the time. More important than anything is how she was feeling about her work again. She'd gone from a breaking point, thinking that maybe she should leave. She came to me as kind of like a last attempt of like, I'm going to give this a go and then I'll move on. She was now passionate about what she was doing. She had the impact. She was having an influence. Because we'd gotten her out of the weeds, she also had balance. She was more credible. She was stronger. She was having more impact. And she felt aligned with what she was doing. That's the paradox. When you stop sacrificing yourself, you actually show up stronger and more credible as a leader. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you could redefine success on your terms without guilt, what would it include? Is that impact, balance, influence, legacy, whatever comes to mind? And what would you be dropping? What do you know right now is perhaps not helpful? Is it people pleasing? I'm saying that one because I've got a people pleaser I'm working with, talking to her in a few minutes. Is it people pleasing? Who of us is not that, by the way? Is it saying yes to everything, which is maybe a form of people pleasing? Is it doing work that you don't actually love? Is it sticking in middle management because somebody told you you've got to do your time? Is it working on execution rather than strategy? Is it thinking, I don't know how to do anything other than hold update meetings rather than strategic meetings because I don't know what to do? What is it that you think, I'd love to let go of that, but I don't know what that means, or am I allowed? What would you let go of if there was no guilt, no shame, no impact? What would you let go of? And also, what would you bring in? Impact, balance, influence, legacy? I love that one, legacy. I think that really helps us with alignment. If you know you're acting for something, it gets you through a lot of uncomfortable but growth opportunities. Because here's the truth. Your definition of success is going to shape your habits, the habits that you build moving forward. If you don't define it, somebody else will. And that may be what's going on right now, usually at the expense of your well-being, right? Most people are quite happy to sacrifice the well-being of the people around them. So let's talk about habits that build sustainable careers. Let's make this practical. If we're redefining success as sustainable impact, what does that actually look like in your day-to-day leadership? It comes down to some habits. The small things you do daily, multiple times a day, maybe weekly, in the moment, either build sustainability or chip away at it. So right now, if you're watching this, you've probably got some habits that are chipping away at your energy. They're chipping away at your impact. Saying yes to everything and just going back-to-back meetings and then leaving all your work for 10 o'clock at night, which you might think is non-negotiable, by the way, but it's always negotiable. What are some of the things that you're doing right now that are taking your energy? And so let's talk about some habits that you can do to bring energy back in. So let's talk about anchoring every day, anchoring habits to give you energy in every day. First of all, this is just a really great one to make sure you're aligned and doing good work, but have an impact tracker. At the end of every day, and when I have somebody doing really well, you only do this once a week, but have a check-in at the end of the way. You write down one way you created impact, not just what you ticked off. The brain needs to see value in the outcomes, not the hours. So what impact did you create today? Even if it was small. The beautiful thing here is if you get good at doing this, next time you're applying for a job or a promotion, you've just got a list of all the impacts you've had with data attached to it. I do a lot of work with job hunters or promotion seekers trying to build that history of impact, and it's hard to do it retrospectively. If you're doing it every single day, it is helping your brain to see where you are creating impact. It is training your brain that you want more of it, and it's giving you this great tool for when you need it down the line. The second daily habit is have some rituals in the moment to recover. You should always have 5 minutes between meetings, which I know is really hard, but 50-minute or 25-minute meetings rather than half an hour and an hour. Step outside, breathe, stretch. Leaders who do this show up sharper, not drained. It is something I only started doing as a coach because you can't take your emotions from one coaching session to another. It's not professional. So I try and give myself, even if I've overrun, I will take 30 seconds to stretch and breathe. Just breathe in, breathe out. We know, by the way, to reduce stress, and stress is what causes burnout, one of the best ways to relieve stress instantly is to do a big sigh. Breathe in, then do another kind of mini breathe in, try and get a tiny bit more in, and then breathe out. That instantly reduces your stress. Instantly. It's been shown. It's amazing. Breathe in deeply, and then a little bit more, and then out. Try it right now. Give it a go. But if you do that between meetings, if you manage to give yourself even just a minute, I'm a big advocate of 5-10 minutes between meetings. I think it's good for your team as well and creates a sense of ownership of like, we're going to keep to the agenda. We're going to stay on time, respect for those things. I think it's just a really healthy thing to do. But even just a couple of deep in, deep out sighs massively helps you sharpen up. Here's the thing. What you're doing when you do that, one, you're focusing away from any swelling thoughts, but more important than that, your brain is getting some much needed oxygen. Most of our buildings, there's not enough oxygen. Oxygen is good for clarity of thought. It allows us to let go of the swirl a lot. It's just a great idea. So that's the second one. The third, delegate better. Every day, I want you to ask yourself, did I delegate with purpose today? What did I do which I didn't need to do? What did I hold on to because I'm afraid of letting somebody else do it, or I can do it better or faster? Or my personal favorite, did this require my face, my brain, or my voice? If not, why did I do it? So as a CEO, I've had to get really a CEO, a head coach, running a team, and the primary coaching is what I love, but I'm also running a team. I've had to get really strict with my time, really, really strict with my time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any downtime. And I often say to my team, does this require my face? Because I'm the face of the business. I'm a head coach. Does it require my voice? For the same kind of reason. I'm always on camera talking to you on my podcast. Or does it require my brain? Like all the stuff the way I coach, my thought leadership around leadership, all that kind of stuff that maybe my team hasn't picked up on yet. They don't have the documentation around yet. If it doesn't need my voice, my face, or my brain, I should not be doing it. Once you get to the executive level, ideally a bit earlier on, you should be asking that question to help you understand what you should delegate. If it doesn't require you, it doesn't matter that somebody else is going to do it differently from you or take longer. It doesn't need you. Delegate it. You can then work on improving how somebody else does it, but delegate it first and then work on improving. The thing I really notice is sometimes I delegate something and I don't like the way they're doing that. And then I ask myself, does that really matter? Probably not. But what this really does is help you get a grip on your workload. And this hugely helps with burnout. Okay, let's talk about some weekly things now to protect yourself, protect your focus, and help you step away from this burnout career structure. Right? This is really about changing the way you're operating to protect your stress levels. So first of all, ruthless prioritization. Each week, ask yourself, what are the one or two things that truly move the business forward? Then guard your time for those. And as I said at the beginning, ironically, when you do that, you're also more promotion ready. You're going to have more of an impact. If you're just saying yes, 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 and firefighting, you might be busy, you might be very visible, but you're not moving the business forward. And therefore, you're not promotable. You're not necessarily even trusted. You might be trusted for firefighting, but not much more. Guard your time for the things that each week that are going to move the business forward. If at the beginning of the week you can't figure that out, you are going to be making decisions based on incorrect data all week. So ask that every single week. What are the one or two things that I'm going to work on this week to truly move the business forward? Second habit every week is look back at the end of the week to see where you said yes. Did it serve your goals? Was it driven by guilt, people pleasing, fear, habits? This is the potentially most important of all. Look at where you're saying yes and ask yourself, did that serve me? Did it serve the business? Did it serve my team? Did it serve the one to two things that truly move the business forward? Because you did your ruthless prioritization at the beginning. Why and when are you saying yes? Is it serving you? Okay, those are the weekly habits. Let's have some in the moment ones as well. So the first one is pause before say yes. Stop saying, if you're struggling with saying yes, start by not saying yes immediately. Always ask to take a moment. I will do this actually with clients quite a lot. We sometimes do it for like job hunting, like they just need a bit of space before they negotiate or something like that. But actually I've realized it's one of the most powerful things for rewiring how we're making decisions is train your brain first to not say yes immediately. That doesn't mean that you're not going to say yes. It just means that you are training your brain to pause and slow down. Say, hey, I'll come back to you tomorrow on that. Give yourself some breathing space. Then ask yourself, does this align with impact or is it busy work? Does it need to be done by me? That question I asked for, does it require your face, your brain, or your voice? If it doesn't belong to you. So say, can I have some more time? And then when you're away from that situation of tension, does this align with the impact that I need to be delivering, not somebody else? A lot of the time we do work for other people's impact and they get the recognition, right? They need this so they can drive their opportunity forward. You need to be a little bit selfish because you know what? You've got a job because your function needs to operate. Does this align with your impact needs? And is it busy work? Does it need to be done by you? Okay. Next thing is anchor everything to goals. It's suddenly quite bright. We've got a storm coming in and there's the sunshine. Who knew? I'll take some sunshine, but it doesn't mean camera needs to be adjusted. Anchor to goals. Before you explain your work, anchor to outcomes. This matters because it drives attention, revenue, growth, whatever it is, anchor in. That's also going to help you answer that previous question, which is, Does this align with the impact I'm after? Then finally, in the moment habit, ask yourself about influence. How does this increase my influence for the better? How does this ensure work is going to get done that means I'm having an impact that I feel aligned with? Remember, at the beginning, I was talking about the problem with our careers is not how busy we are, is that we don't feel aligned. That's causing the stress that causes burnout. Are you having an impact that feels aligned? You could be having an impact, but you don't care about it, right? Help yourself by understanding what matters to you so you can make proactive decisions instead of being reactive. You want to do work that matters, not do all the work. You want to do stuff that matters to you, that matters to the business, but matters to you. If nothing that matters to the business matters to you, that organization is not aligned with you. That's okay to realize, but it does need to be acted on, because otherwise you are ultimately going to burn out, because you have to be aligned, ideally 90% of the time. But if you can get above 50%, we're doing well for some of the people I've worked with, okay? These are small shifts, but they rewire your leadership over time. Here's the kicker. They don't just protect you from burnout, they actually make you look more strategic, because you are being more strategic, more credible, more promotable. Becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. You're going to get more recognition. You're going to get more stuff that aligns with you because you're doing more aligned work. And that recognition means you have more influence. More influence means you make better decisions because you're not fighting your corner, justifying every decision, getting defensive, because you automatically have the backing of key stakeholders because you have a great reputation. That all started because you're doing better, more aligned work more of the time. So the more you do this, the more impact you're going to have, and the easier and happier you're going to find life, right? Because sustainable leaders aren't reactive, they are proactive, they're intentional, they're impactful, they get recognized. So I'd love to know, of all those things I've just talked about, how are you going to start this week? I'd love for you to share one thing that you're going to commit to. Share in the chat. Are you going to do, you can start tracking impacts every day. You're going to do some micro recovery rituals, 5 minutes of stretching, breathing, maybe doing those deep sighs I talked about. You're going to work on delegation. You're going to work on prioritization. You're going to have a yes review where you look back and when did you say yes this week? You're going to learn to pause before saying yes. You're going to look at goals more. Are you going to ask yourself about your influence? Tell me, what are you committing to as one thing you're going to try first? One thing. A baby step to step away from burnout. I'd love to know what it is. Let me hold you accountable. Now let's tackle a fear. I hear from so many incredibly ambitious women I work with. If I slow down, I'll lose momentum. If I protect my energy, people will think I'm less committed. It's so common. We equate constant motion with ambition. But here's the truth. Slowing down strategically is not losing momentum. It's building longevity. It's the marathon, not the sprint. Think about an elite athlete. They have days when they don't train. They don't train flat out every day. They rest, they recover, they pace themselves. So they can perform at their peak when it matters. Leadership is the same. We are the elite athletes of the tech world. If you're a tech executive or on the way to it, you are an elite athlete for technology. You don't need to be on 24/7. In fact, I would argue if you do that, you are going to burn out, not because you're on 24/7, but because of what's causing you to be on 24/7, right? You will burn out long before you reach the influence and impact you're capable of and that your ambition wants you to have. And I've talked about before, quite a while ago now, on this series about the link between our ambition not being fulfilled and burnout. And that's where that really comes in. We can be ambitious, hold ourselves back because of the cost of our ambition that we think is going to happen. And that causes its own special form of burnout. You got to love it. The irony of burnout. Boundaries are credibility. They're not retreating. When you protect your time, others see you as someone who makes intentional choices. Strategic slowing down is pausing to think about the big picture instead of firefighting. This is where real leadership influence lives. Choosing legacy over urgency, asking, will this matter in 12 months? Is about pouring energy into the right thing rather than burning all the energy on the thing that adds little value. One of my clients was terrified to start saying no. She thought her boss would see her as less ambitious. But instead, when she did this, she was finally told, now you're operating like the exec I hired you to be. Thank you. That was a bit of a hard one to hear. She didn't lose credibility. She realized she hadn't had it. She wasn't told. She now gained it. That's the paradox. The very things that protect your energy are the same things that grow your career. So what's harder for you? Setting boundaries, slowing down, or letting go of urgency? Let me know in the chat. What's harder? Slowing down, letting go of urgency, setting boundaries. Whichever you choose. That's the place to start building your career longevity. So I'd love to know as we wrap up today, have you struggled with burnout? I want to know, as I said, I'm here to answer your questions. So if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, or if it's private, drop me a DM and I'll get back to you later today or maybe on Monday, we'll see. Because I have boundaries, I don't work at weekends. Here's what we've covered though. We've talked about how the model that we've been shown is quietly setting us up for burnout. But we've also talked about how you can define success on your own terms around what you want to be known for, around the sustainable impact, not the sacrifice. When you do that, that actually helps you get recognized and get ahead. We've talked about some habits to help you build that in every single day so you can show up as that elevator leader. And we've talked about why slowing down strategically doesn't make you less ambitious. It actually strengthens your credibility and career longevity. So here's the key takeaway. Can't speak today. You do not need to choose between ambition and well-being. You really do not. You can and should have both, but only if you build career intentionally instead of letting it run you. If today's conversation resonated and you want some more help, DM me the word toolkit and I'll send you my Burnout to Balance Toolkit. It's simple, it's practical, it's just a set of tools to help you spot the warning signs early and reset before burnout truly derails you. So you don't end up as somebody who leaves a tech career because she's burnt out. If you leave a tech career, I want it to be intentional. And I don't want you leaving the tech career just because you burn out. I want you to do all the things you have ambition to do. And if this is really impacting you, let's talk. My Lead Without Burnout Accelerator is kicking off soon. We're going to go deeper into this. It's a leadership approach that should fuel the way you're working instead of draining you. Next week, same time, same place, is our third and final session of Burnout Proof Leadership. We're going to talk about how to beat burnout for good. Because the world needs you on your best leadership game. We need the impact you can deliver. Cycles of burnout, poor health, followed by a mandatory recovery period doesn't do that. So we're talking about breaking the cycle for good. You are never going to be back in burnout. I'll see you same time, same place